This is what, according to WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American, this is what rye should be like. WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany, and today I have Van Winkle Family Reserve Rye, 47.8%, 13 years old. Normally it's sold for $119 if you can get your hands on it. The price on the secondary market, $1,400, $1,400. So I'm going to pour this in here. A little tip for everyone out there. I found an excellent YouTube video, I'm going to put it in the comments, about Preston Van Winkle, the fourth generation, now working together with his father, Julian III. He actually gave a tasting in Manchester in February 2017, and the entire 1 hour and 48 minutes were recorded. And you can watch this online, a full talk and tasting of the Van Winkle whiskey range hosted at the Whiskey Jar Manchester from February 2017. It was so interesting to see what was going on there. Now, there's also other videos online, for example, from Julian III, where he gives an interview and talks for about an hour, and he actually mentions the rye whiskey. At the very, very beginning, we're talking now late 80s, beginning of the 90s, he bottled rye whiskey for the, what market in the world can you sell anything to that says old and bourbon on it? Yay, you got it right, Kentucky. Bourbon was sold to Japan. The Japanese, even in the 80s and 90s, would buy anything from Kentucky that was old bourbon, old rye. So, Julian III called up one of his friends from the Medley Distillery. They stopped distilling in 1992 and asked, hey, you got anything in the warehouse that's old rye? And they said, yeah, we don't know what to do with it. He said, I'll take it. And so he bought it, and he filled it up, shipped it over to Japan. He, Julian III, said, my margins weren't so great, but hey, the bottling line was in use. I had some cash flow. Everyone was more or less happy. And then he was in Chicago, and he showed a label to one of his friends and asked a few other buddies to taste this. And they were just all, what is this? This stuff is fantastic. And he said, yeah, it's a rye. And they goes, we need this. Come on, sell it. And so he decided to actually produce this now for the U.S. market. And at the very beginning, it was a medley. And then at the end, no, even today, excuse me, not at the end, it's from Bernheim. It's actually a 50-50% combination of medley and cream of Kentucky rye whiskey from Bernheim. What they did is they left it in the barrels for the 13 up to almost 18 years in some cases. And then they didn't want it to age anymore, so what do? You put it in a stainless steel tank, and you just let it sit. And they have this nice little reservoir of 13-year-old, maybe even older, Rye Family Reserve rye whiskey. And the problem is, they don't have any more. This is the problem why the Van Winkle Family Reserve rye is so rare. Because what they did was they said, okay, I think it was 2007, 2008, they said to the Buffalo Trace, I think we need some more. Now, with whiskey, you have to remember that if I say today I need some more, I will have it in 13 years. So, 2006, 2007, they said, I think we need some more. So this is going to be 2020 by the time we get the new Buffalo Trace rye. And up until that point, what they basically did said, we have this amount in that steel tank, stainless steel, and we're just going to divide it up by the years and then just sell it. And that's it. We can't sell any more. We can't sell any less. We're just going to sell that. We're going to locate that amount and we're going to sell it. And that's the reason why, one, it's so expensive. Two, it's so rare, at least in the secondary market. And three, this is also the interesting thing. Why is Van Winkle so hyped? Now, Preston Van Winkle, as well as Julian III, both mentioned a so-called Beverage Institute I have to take a look at this. Beverage Testing Institute blind testing in Chicago. That was it was very interesting. You only in the third didn't know the year. 1996, at least according to Preston, I think it was. One of the distributors just sent a sample in. He paid for it to be tested, and you have a group of about 18 people, if I remember correctly, that taste this blind. So they get a bottle like this, and they just know that it's a whiskey or a cognac or a rum or whatever it is, and they taste it and they just give a review. A number between 0, which would be, I don't know, turpentine, I think that would even get a 13, and 100, which is perfect, which I think they've never given before. Once before they gave a 9. This was, 99. This was for like a 5,000 euro bottle of extra old Scotch that it was impossible to get. And so this distributor gave them the bottle and a sample, and they sent back their review. 99. Never before had that happened for an American whiskey, and never again since. And so, of course, all the wholesalers started calling them and saying, hey, you got a 99 review. We want some of your products. And so more and more people wanted some of these 50,000 bottles that were produced every year. 50,000 is nothing. And that's why it's so scarce and so rare. Well, on top of that, there's actually some cooks that actually went online and said this is the best whiskey in the world and so on. And Anthony Bourdain said it, the most glorious bourbon in the world, as well as David Chung said it, and Sean Brock said it, and so on. And this, of course, hyped it even more. Very, very interesting. This was the Pappy 20-year-old. Preston explained in the video that a few years ago, I think it was 2013, it might have been 2012, they actually sent a new sample to this testing institute. And they were a little bit afraid, is it going to get a 99, a 96, a 94? It got a 99 again. So I can't wait to test the 20-year-old. This is going to be really good. I still have to do the 15. I'm going to do the 20 at the end. But what we have here is the rye. 13-year-old rye. I've never had a 13-year-old rye before. I've had a 40-year-old Scotch from Glenfarclas. I've had a 30-year-old Scotch. I've had 25, 20, but I've never had a rye whiskey that was older than, if I can really, really remember, it's 7 years. I have, for example, here an Old Scout Rye 7-year-old. This was very, very good. I have a Templeton up here that's 4 years old. That's not even very old at all. Even my Elijah Craig here says 12 years, and it's a bourbon. My Booker's, which I love, is only, this one isn't even 9 years. It's only 6 years old. I have one that's 8 years old, and so on. So we don't even have any ryes that are this old. And this is also part of the hype. They created their own, basically, market. They have the wheaters. A wheat whiskey's never older than 10, 8 to 10, and they went and said, hey, let's go for 15, 20, 23. And that was, they just created their own market. Imagine I grew up, I was in the 80s, and we had the F40, the Ferrari, almost 90. And this was the car. There wasn't a better car in the world. And then they started making better cars that went from 0 to 100 miles per hour in 7 seconds. And this was called the Super Hyper. And the same thing here. They created their own market. The extra old wheater and the extra old rye. So, let's finally get around to tasting this. I highly recommend watching that, the video. Oh, it's good. In German, I did it's called a Super Mega Rye Challenge. I took 24 different rye whiskeys, 6 each time, 4 different things, and I tasted them. The best 2 moved on to the final. So at the end, I had 8 different rye whiskeys, and I tasted them, and I ranked them. Jack Daniel's won, by the way, the straight rye whiskey. Jack Daniel's did not win. Willet, 8-year-old, won. Then Jack Daniel's, Booker's was number 4, the rye. I had a little 2cl sample of that, which I used for 3 different videos. This stuff was very, very good, but it was a little too hot compared to Willet and also the Jack Daniel's. I wish I would have had this back then, and I might have put that as well in there, but hey, that's life. Now, I've had some pretty good ryes in my life, by the way, already. Oh, this is so good. The first thing I get is dark chocolate with tobacco leaves combined with, I'm really going to go here, with brown sugar and molasses with clover honey on top of a pecan pie. Can you imagine that? This is so good. That was really nice. I think I got it. And a little bit of molasses. I put molasses syrup in there already. Yep. That's it. You got it. Oh, wow. It's good. Oh, it's so good. I have one of my favorite ryes, my daily dram. It's called Lot 40 from Canada. This is a rye whiskey. Came out just recently, I think 2014 again. Might have been 15. And this has a lot of menthol and eucalyptus taste to it. Also in the nose, it's very particular. You give me 20 different ryes, I'm going to go, oh, this is Lot 40. And I love it. It's great. I sometimes talk about ryes being dark and ryes being light. They go towards the dark spectrum, if you take a look at that, and a little bit to the light spectrum. That's a little bit more to the light in the middle, and this is a little bit more towards the dark. Very, very nice. Oh, I think I've used the word nice 25 times. It might be even more. Oh, this is something I could smell for the next hour. Oh, this is so great. I don't know if you ever will have the chance to buy a bottle or even to try a sample of the Family Reserve Rye 13-year-old. If at all, try it, please. It's magic. Now I'm going to taste it, and don't be surprised if I just go, ah. Wow. The 47.8% are just so perfectly integrated into this whiskey. You have a little bit of it, but it just comes through that brown sugar, the pecans, the tobacco, the honey, the clove, maybe even a little bit of nutmeg thrown in there. This is what, according to WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American, this is what rye should be like. Now, they put the barrels down on the first floor in the middle of the warehouse so they have time to age, so the temperature difference doesn't really harm that. If it's up at the top, you have 120 degrees during the day and maybe 50 degrees during the night Fahrenheit, and just really, really screws up the whiskey if you leave it there for 13 years. Put it down at the bottom, you can do 13 years. That's what happens in Scotland, by the way. Why is a Scottish whiskey with 12 years just the start? Because during the day and during the evening, the temperature very rarely changes. So the wood doesn't really work as it should. That's why Kavalan from Taiwan is so quickly aged in 3 or 5 years, because it changes massively during each day because of the temperature differences. And you want to keep it to a minimum to have older products. Now, America has a lot of temperature changes. Just part of our winter is winter, summer is summer, and it gets hot during the day and cold during the night. If you've ever been to Europe, for example, I'm in northern Germany, we can have days where it's 65 in the night and it's 68 during the day. And that could be July. And that's it. That's what happens a lot. In Scotland's almost the same. Even sometimes more so. And this is what makes it perfect. An old Scottish and an older 13-year-olds is ancient for rye in America. And that's what we need. All right, WhiskyJason here. Whiskey from the viewpoint of America. I'm just going to have this last little sip and just moan a little bit. Oh, it's so good. All right, thanks for watching. I can't wait to have the 15-year-old. I can't wait to have the 20-year-old. I'm really looking forward to finishing up the Van Winkle series here. Unfortunately, I don't have a 23-year-old. If anyone has anything, contact me, whiskeyjason@gmail.com. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.